This is Mascoma Lake. Just came here on a whim, just followed my nose, and this is where I ended up. We're gonna do a recap of all the Ephraim tours that have been done so far and focus on the Tree of Life. So I'm heading to Dartmouth for a doctor's appointment. Hopefully I'm not too late. Nope, I'm back at Dartmouth. This is where my videos started, with Nathan Smith. So it was recently renamed Geisel Medical School at Dartmouth after Theodore Geisel, who was better known as Dr. Seuss. I think they should have kept it Nathan Smith Medical College. There was another Smith named Joseph Smith who lived in New England at the time. He later became the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Nathan Smith saved Joseph's life when Joseph was 8 years old. Okay, this is really cool. We're in the Dartmouth Medical College admission building, and there's the painting of Nathan Smith, the founder of Dartmouth Medical College. Got some artifacts of Nathan Smith. Dr. Smith would often take his students with him on appointments he would have throughout New England, sometimes 50 miles away. He taught at Dartmouth for about 15 years before moving on to other ventures. In 1813, Nathan Smith moved to New Haven, Connecticut to start teaching at the newly created medical school at Yale University. So here is where Nathan Smith might have taught, here at the old campus of Yale. Nathan Smith was one of the first professors of anatomy and medicine at Yale University. First, I figured I would explain why I started making the Ephraim Tours videos. So I was bishop of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Ascutney Ward, for 5.5 years. Just under 5 years as bishop, and that's when COVID hit, and we had to go into lockdown, and we couldn't have services anymore. Today we're staying at the Snapdragon Inn. It's about 30th day of COVID-19 and stay-at-home order. See, my beard's getting a little bit more scruffy. So I decided I would make videos that I could share with the members, but also with family and friends, about what I believe. And I believe that all religions point to God in some way, and all religions have common threads that are the truth. One of those being the Tree of Life. And when I discovered that the Tree of Life is also evolution and science, then all the pieces began to fit together. And I learned that while making these videos. My Uncle John actually was a professor at Yale University. Go into any library and look up dinosaurs and you will find my Uncle John's name. He was a famous paleontologist who discovered the Deinonychus. He was a professor at Yale University, and while working there in the 1960s, he went on several expeditions to Montana. On one of those digs, he discovered a new species of dinosaur with a large, terrible claw. He named the dinosaur Deinonychus, which means terrible claw, but his greatest discovery was what he found out about Deinonychus, which revolutionized the way we see dinosaurs. He noticed that the Deinonychus was very bird-like. He spent the rest of his life studying fossils with feathers and other bird-like characteristics. Replica of the Deinonychus skeleton, about the size of that, and over here we have, this is the Velociraptor skeleton here, and this is like in Jurassic Park, but this is actually closer to the Deinonychus size than the Velociraptor. John retired from Yale in 1992. In 1997, one of his last scientific forays, Dr. Ostrom joined an expedition to China that unearthed new forms of dinosaurs with feathers, providing further credence to his ideas. Dr. John Ostrom passed away July 16, 2005. The evidence of science can't be denied, but also the connections of the spirit can't be denied. The tree of life, the scientific tree of life of evolution, and the spiritual tree of life found in many religions. The eternal tree of life. Why the name Ephraim Tours? Well, that comes from a couple things. One is that in this area where I served as bishop, there is a Mount Ephraim, which is named after a mountain in Israel. It also might be named after a man named Ephraim that lived there, but that still is a connection to Mount Ephraim in the Old Testament. Chose to call it Ephraim Tours. Also, I just had a son, and we named him Ephraim, or Jacob Ephraim. If I continue making these videos, I might change the name. We'll see. In 1994, we took a trip to Mexico to see the Mayan pyramids at Chichen Itza. That's me in the funny hat. Every equinox, thousands gather to see the shadow of the snake Quetzalcoatl make its way down the pyramid. We toured several pyramid sites with a Mayan shaman named Hanbat's Men. He showed us many hieroglyphs and explained the meaning of them. And during that he explained how we are connected to the Mayan version of the Tree of Life. The Mayan Tree of Life, or the soul, resembles the Kabbalah, which is a Jewish tradition adopted from Hinduism. Just like with the Kabbalah, the Mayan soul has centers in the body and then centers above, which connect the soul to the Tree of Life. So how does the story of creation fit into evolution? In Christianity, the tree of life first appears in Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. And out of the ground made the Lord to grow every tree that is good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge. This is part of the creation story. Adam and Eve were placed in the Garden of Eden. In other words, man was born by the tree of life. Adam was free to partake of the fruit of any tree, including the tree of life. But along with all other creatures, he could not partake of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But Eve partook of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. In other words, Eve evolved. And therefore, Adam followed Eve.
But once they evolved and were capable of knowledge and language, they became accountable for the knowledge, and therefore separated from the tree of life and the Garden of Eden. Jesus came to pave the way for man to return to the tree of life. In Hinduism, we never left the tree of life, because the branches of the tree of life are the whole earth, according to the Bhagavad Gita, written in 500 BCE. In the 15th discourse, Lord Krishna compares the ultimate source of the visible universe to an inverted tree, with the fruits, leaves, and branches coming from the earth, and the roots reaching down from heaven.
And then I'll snap. Ready?
Here we are at the Boston Temple for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Each temple has a theme. The Boston Temple's theme is the Tree of Life. At the Boston Temple, members have the opportunity to be sealed to families for time in all eternity. This is where we are connected to the Tree of Life. This is why Latter-day Saints have such an interest in genealogy. This is my family tree, going back 4 generations. The family tree is a branch of the Tree of Life. Oostrum in Dutch means east stream. The Oostrum line goes back to the Netherlands in the 1600s, and the Netherlands also has a town named Oostrum. In 2017, I had the opportunity to go to the Netherlands and to visit some of these places. We all come from different cultures and backgrounds, and that should be celebrated. Culture is an extension of the human family, and as we learn more about the history and culture of others and of our own history and our own culture, and we share those with others, we gain a better understanding of how we are all one big family, how the human family is all connected, and how we are all connected to the Tree of Life.
One struggle that comes up in fitting evolution with Christianity is the question, where does Adam and Eve fit into evolution? When did Eve partake of the fruit of the tree of knowledge? Stay tuned to find out what I discovered while attending the LDS temple.
During the endowment session, we watch a reenactment of the creation of the world, and of Adam and Eve in the garden partaking of the fruit, and then progressing through several phases of early human history. For example, the development of a monetary system. Adam is tempted with money. I thought, were there multiple Adams, or does Adam just represent early man through major developments or awakenings? Either way, there would have to be multiple Adams and multiple Eves to cover the range from 400,000 years ago to the first civilization 7,000 years ago. The first Adam and Eve represent the first biological human, where man had developed the ability for knowledge, but not yet taken the first step. The second Adam and Eve represent when Eve partook of the fruit. This would have been at least tens of thousands of years after the first biological human, and Adam didn't partake of the fruit until thousands of years after Eve. Partaking of the fruit of the tree of knowledge was what I call the first awakening of the human consciousness. This could have happened over and over again until a sufficient language was developed to pass down knowledge. Then there would be a third Adam and Eve, close to the beginning of the first civilization, when the first written language was created. This again is at least tens of thousands of years after the second Eve. This is where religion is formed, and Adam or man tries to understand the unknown and communicate with God. This is what I call the second awakening. Another thing I learned after studying Darwin's Tree of Life and then attending the endowment session at the LDS Temple was how the days of creation fit into geologic time. During the endowment session, the days are called periods, and those can correlate with geologic periods. For instance, the fifth day started 570 million years ago with the first fish, and ended 65 million years ago with the evolution of birds.
I'm at the Harvard Museum of Natural History.
That's at the Harvard Museum of Natural History. Well, it was pretty cool because they had this diagram of the Tree of Life. Reading the Tree of Life. This is the Tree of Life here in the circle, starting here with the beginning of life, and then spreading out to all the different branches. And one of these branches would be like reptiles, and then dinosaurs, and then birds. And then another one of these would be mammals. It's kind of interesting looking at like the timeline of Darwin's Tree of Life. There's a picture of Darwin and his first diagram of the Tree of Life there. But the timeline shows with the different eras. There you have the different periods from the Paleozoic era, the Mesozoic era, to the Cenozoic era. And down here you have fish, the first fish to the first bird. So that's interesting looking at that time period. The sixth day started 65 million years ago, separating the Mesozoic from the Cenozoic. During the Mesozoic is the Jurassic, the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, right? Oh, yeah, those are the periods, and that's the dinosaur era was the Mesozoic, and then the Cenozoic is the era we're in right now. Yeah, so the first primate showed up about 60 million years ago, and the first human showed up around 400,000 years ago. Yeah, it's interesting like how paleontology hooks up into human history, civilization, or even like genealogy.
The thing with mainstream science is that it only takes a position that has readily been backed and proven by evidence, but there is evidence, a lot of evidence, that doesn't fit the mainstream science. Next time we will be exploring not mainstream science, but quantum physics theories that show evidence of God and non-local consciousness.
Welcome to Ephraim Tours. In this episode, looking forward to doing this episode for a while. We're going to be talking about the science of God and non-local consciousness. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about here today I learned from Dr. Amit Goswami, better known as the quantum activist. Dr. Amit Goswami is a quantum physics expert, and he has written several books on quantum physics. And there's a documentary on his more recent theories of God.
In quantum physics, objects are not determined things. Objects are possibilities. Possibilities of what? Possibilities for consciousness to choose from.
There's the physical, and then there's the spiritual, or consciousness. There are many layers that make up consciousness. And there is what we call non-local consciousness.
I'm going to be doing some work on computers. This is what I do. I'm just using this space here because they have a nice table here I can work on. And we're just working on these computers here. Taking parts from one and putting it into another to make a working computer. So now I need to just put it all back together.
I'm a network technician by trade. Data is transferred in a network through what's called the OSI model. In the OSI model, we see how data moves through layers of interpretation from the upper application layers down to the binary and then to the physical layer of circuits and wires. Information then travels to its destination in the form of electricity or light. Binary metadata also is interpreted at the various network layers of the OSI model in order to make sure the information gets to its destination intact. Once the data reaches its destination, it is only understood at the upper application layers.
See if it turns on. Okay.
There is a similar pattern inside a computer with the upper software layers down to the physical layer and then back up.
And it's lighting up. And there's the screen turning on. Looks like we're good to go.
You can compare consciousness to the OSI model. Conscious thought starts at the top and goes through the various levels of subconscious layers to store or retrieve memories or thoughts down to the physical level. The brain signals travel through nerve cells and neurons at the physical level and then back up to the subconscious or conscious level. Again, it doesn't start at the physical. It starts at a layer above. But where does consciousness begin?
And when consciousness collapses, each of these possibilities, we get sensing, thinking, feeling, and intuiting. That mind and brain both are possibilities of consciousness immediately solves the problem. We have found the mediator. It's non-local consciousness which mediates the interaction of mind, brain, mind and physical, and the vital and the supramental. All are connected via consciousness.
Animals also have a level of consciousness. But what about plants? What about trees? What about celestial bodies, such as the Earth or the universe itself? And what happens to our consciousness when we die?
A graduate student in philosophy came to my office one day, and she said that her boyfriend just died, and she's in deep mourning, and somehow somebody told her that I might be of some help. Now, what do I know, as quantum physicist, about helping somebody with mourning? I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I know nothing about how to help people with grieving. I told her that, but she wouldn't quit.
So there's a paradox of quantum physics. How does possibility become reality? Dr. Amit Goswami's theory of non-local consciousness solves this paradox. Quantum is the binary code of reality. And just like in the OSI model, the consciousness is the layer above. Consciousness is the ground of all being. And just like in the OSI model, data is transferable. The consciousness is transferable. When we die, our spirits join the ever-present non-local consciousness. In other words, the tree of life, or the flower of life. I'm climbing Little Lascutney. I think I'm about halfway right now. There's a marker right there. Okay, I found another trail marker. I got off the trail for a while there, but I found my way back. And there's Okemo. I'm on the top of Little Lascutney right now. Ephraim Tours was a way for me to help promote this area, but now that my focus has changed a little bit more, something that I discovered while making these videos was the one thing that I've been looking for all along, which was the link between science and religion. And I grew up believing in evolution. My uncle was a big part in
in fitting in the pieces of the puzzle of evolution with his discovery of Deinonychus. I used to want to be a paleontologist or an artist paleontologist, one of those people that draws the dinosaurs for the paleontologists, and I used to want to go on digs. But I also grew up learning about the spirit and having a belief in God, and those two things, those two parts of me were at odds. And basically my whole life I've been trying to reconcile the two, between science and religion. And I knew they fit together somehow. I always believed in evolution, and I always believed in family and eternal families. And it wasn't until making these videos that I realized that evolution is the same thing. Evolution is the tree of life, and families are the tree of life. So my focus is now on the tree of life. There are many branches of the tree of life, and trying to put all the pieces together is the new focus. One of the things about the LDS faith is eternal families, and being sealed to branches of our families that we don't even know yet. And I love the idea that someday we can meet relatives that we haven't met yet, and we can do their work, and we can be sealed to them and get to know them, and that we can all be redeemed and sealed to the tree of life. And what that is finding the broken branches and then grafting them back into the tree of life. So with Darwin's tree of life, there are also broken branches. The branches, the species that go extinct, and that happens throughout the geologic time. Species go extinct, and knowing that the soul is eternal negates all the negative aspects of survival of the fittest. Each culture is a branch of the tree of life, and each culture is an extension of the human family. And there are cultures throughout the history that have been lost. And there are cultures and languages that are disappearing. Although recently there has been a push to preserve culture of all different parts of the world.